What up, nomads? If there's one thing that can really make or break a day of sightseeing, it's your footwear. So, how do you make sure you're packing exactly the right shoes for a trip? I'll break down my top tips for picking footwear based on your trip needs and your style to avoid any painful mistakes. Let's go. First off, how many pairs of shoes should you pack? Well, obviously the answer is it depends. My signature approach to any kind of packing decision is to consider the following criteria: the weather, activities, vibe, so casual or dressy, and the trip length. But it's quite possible to satisfy all of those requirements with one pair of shoes. I've gone on a 4-day trip with only the shoes I was wearing, and I was totally fine. I had a very good idea of all the activities that I had in store, and I was confident that the comfortable, low-profile pair that I had chosen would do the job for every day of my trip. But if I'm honest, I'd say that over the last decade of travel, the most common number I've packed for a trip longer than 5 days is 3 pairs of shoes. In the winter, that's usually some type of sneaker, some type of boot, and the boot I wear on travel days, and some type of dressier shoe, which could be a bootie or a brogue. In the summer, that could be a sneaker, a sandal, and a flat. I always try to pack a combination of shoes that don't overlap too much in their functions. 3 pairs that give me plenty of diversity and options, both in color, style, and purpose. There are definitely trips where I've packed 2 pairs of the same type of shoe, like 2 pairs of boots or 2 pairs of sneakers, one functional and one for fashion. I've also increased the pairs of shoes if they were extra flat and easy to pack. So summer sandals, for example, pack fairly flat, so I can bring a little more variety or sneak in a pair of shower shoes to a trip where I'm staying in a hostel or going to a public pool. I rarely bring more than 1 pair of bulky boots on a trip though, and those are most often the shoes I'll wear on travel days. So let's circle back to our grid of weather, activities, vibe, and trip length, because truly this never fails me. Weather. How does this impact your footwear choice? Well, the easiest examples are cold, snow, and rain. Now for specific tips, I'll leave links below to a video on how to pack for a winter trip and another one on how to pack for the rain. In these videos, I walk you through how I navigate packing for those conditions and how to choose versatile items no matter how bad the weather. But summer weather also impacts your footwear choice because hot weather can make your feet sweaty and they can swell. And when you're not wearing socks, there's also more risk of blisters. Also, summer travels or warm weather travel can often include far more adventurous and outdoorsy activities, which leads me to my next section of the grid, activities. Weather conditions are one thing, but how much of that weather you're exposed to depends on your activities and your needs for those activities. So, when thinking of footwear for activities, the question I ask myself is always, is there anything that I'm doing where the footwear will be make or break? For example, if I'm rock climbing, I'll need rock climbing shoes. If I'm snorkeling, I'll need diving fins. I mean, these are pretty specific and extreme examples, but more common examples may be, I'm planning on sightseeing a lot, so I need a comfortable pair of walking shoes, or my vacation will really be impacted negatively. Or I'm attending a wedding, so I need a pair of nice shoes to go with my dress or suit. Think of the activities that really don't have room for mistakes and make sure to cover those bases first. You may have a few of those in your trip itinerary, so your packing list might be informed entirely by this question, and you may fill your 3 slots with these activity shoes. The second angle to this question I'd recommend considering is, do I have anything that can cover more than one activity? For example, if you're hiking, what difficulty level will it be? Your running shoes may be fine for a 2 to 3 hour hike, or maybe even hiking sandals, depending on the terrain. If that's the case, you may not need to pack bulky hiking boots and instead select footwear like sneakers that can also look great out and about in the city. Next, let's talk about vibe. This is where your personal style and the purpose of your trip comes into play. If it's a business trip or quite a fancy trip, like traveling for a wedding, there are multiple events that might impact your selections. it might also impact the ratio of dressed up shoes versus casual shoes. For example, if I have a casual trip, 2 out of 3 of my shoes might be sneakers. If it's a dressy trip, only 1 out of 3 may be casual. Now, I touched upon number of shoes at the beginning of this video, but I want to add a few more thoughts as it relates to the length of your trip. For some, length of trip has no impact on number of shoes, either because you have a bunch of specific events in a short trip that all require different footwear, in which case you could be packing 4 pairs for a 3-day trip. Or on the flip side, you have one long trip where you really have one versatile pair of shoes that can do it all. In these kinds of extreme situations, I'd recommend asking yourself the following questions. For the person who is bringing a lot of pairs, ask yourself if any of the shoes you are packing can do more than you think, and maybe you can take 1 pair out of your suitcase. Or perhaps the footwear that's specific to your activity can be purchased, borrowed, or rented on location, like sports-specific shoes. For the person convinced they only need 1 pair of shoes, power to you. But consider that you might just want to switch things up for your own comfort, to keep from getting sick of your travel looks, to reduce the wear and tear on your pair of shoes, or in case they get wet and muddy and you just need to wear something else while they dry. If you really feel like you don't have space in your suitcase, there are some shoes that pack extremely small, and I've also seen people just hang shoes on the back of their backpack on the outside. So I've given you an overarching methodology to thinking about packing footwear. But what about the specifics of selecting a pair for your upcoming trip? Well, here's another methodology, and it's the consideration of safety, comfort, and style, SCS. Let's talk safety first, as this relates again to the activities you have planned. Some activities require closed-toed shoes, horseback riding for example, or hiking where there are potentially rattlesnakes. Likewise, some situations call for shoes that aren't mules or flip-flops, like going on a roller coaster. Personally, I also don't advise wearing thin sandals in dense cities. Your feet can get dirty, they can get trampled, and you have to avoid stepping on anything gross or dangerous like broken glass. When you think of footwear and safety, it's also important to think about surfaces. Are the surfaces really hot, in which case you'll want a thicker sole? Are there cobblestones, in which case you won't want anything thin and pointy? Slippery surfaces, muddy surfaces. The selection of footwear for safety can be comfortable and even stylish, but not always. So you may have to make some decisions that prioritize safety above all. And that might mean packing more grippy sandals instead of the fashiony ones. And thinking about surfaces can also help you remember less obvious shoes like water shoes for rocky beaches. Make sure you research your destination and cross-reference travel plans with online resources and blog posts or Reddit threads to get some insight into whether or not you'd need specialty footwear for your destination. Now, where does comfort weigh out over safety? The best example I can think of is choosing to wear a well-worn-in pair of running shoes that are super comfortable to go hiking versus a stiff pair of brand new hiking boots that have ankle support. The ankle support definitely is more safe, but the comfort of the tennis shoe might be more your jam. When would you pick style over comfort and safety, you may ask? Well, your safety and comfort do come first, because I do believe that these will make your vacation so much better. But sometimes people overestimate the need for special gear. It reminds me of this tweet poking fun at enthusiasts who gear up for a very easy, low-effort hike. Just because you can wear the latest, most high-performance specialized gear, it doesn't mean you need to. You could easily pack something more versatile and get more wear out of it on the rest of your trip. On the other end, sometimes you'll pick style over comfort because you just don't want to look like a tourist. I'm right there with you, I get it. When it comes to your comfort, people have different needs. Unless your podiatrist has prescribed inserts or you were diagnosed with a condition that requires orthopedic shoes, the rest of us often learn by trial and error what hurts our feet and where our threshold is for certain styles of footwear. Some people swear by barefoot style shoes. Other people want the cushiest, most padded and shaped shoe. Some people, like me, have high arches, which makes so many shoes rub and put pressure on the top of my foot. If you have bunions, you'll have specific needs, and if you're flat-footed, some shoes may not work at all for you. Like Birkenstocks are great for me because I have a high arch, but I know people with flat feet that can't stand them. Not only do you have to know what shoes work for your foot, but also how long you can tolerate them. The easiest example is high heels. Even the most comfy pair have a shorter wear time than a comfy pair of sneakers. Flip-flops can also have the same impact. They can be super comfy at first, but after an hour of walking, they can actually make your legs hurt because they're so flat. So make sure you're considering comfort, but also comfort plus time. For sightseeing, something with more cushion inside is better than a super flat sole. Lighter shoes will be more comfortable than heavy shoes, and anything too stiff with no bend in the foot might make your foot ache, and a sole that's too flat and too slippery might not protect you from the varied surfaces you'll be walking on. If you have pretty sweaty feet or are traveling in the summer, the heat is also a factor to consider. Your feet can swell a lot in the heat, so keep that in mind. I swear by merino socks because they keep my feet at the perfect temperature and they don't smell. I don't have super sweaty feet personally, but I did do some research, and on top of merino socks, people recommend leather shoes that have aeration holes and buying inserts that you can replace when your shoes get a little stinky. Plus, you can buy shoes made from merino wool or shoes that are made from recycled knit fabric that can be tossed in the washing machine. All of this comes down to knowing your feet well, and my next big tip, to know your shoes well too. Meaning, do not break in new shoes on vacation. If you take away one thing from this video, please let it be that. I have extremely sensitive feet, so buying new shoes is always a risk. I never buy shoes without a return policy either. I also never break in new shoes on a trip, unless it's a model and brand I'm extremely familiar with. I break in shoes by wearing them around the house with socks, stretching them out. If they are very tight in a few spots, I may take them to a cobbler to get them professionally stretched. I also line shoes with padded stickers and moleskin, which you can buy in sheets. Some people may say, well, stop buying cheap shoes. They won't be comfortable. And to some degree, I agree that cheap shoes are bad for your body and your style, and over time, your wallet because you keep having to replace them. But the idea that expensive shoes should be comfortable right away out of the box is not accurate and not in line with actual traditional shoemaking techniques. High quality leather shoe fans will know a well-made shoe actually requires breaking in because they're made with leather and the soles are handmade and they were designed to form to your foot to be comfortable in the future. So give them their rightful time for breaking in. Also, new shoes can surprise you, like being more slippery than you expected, so you're gonna wanna try them out and get to know them before taking them for a spin on a trip. This is not something that you wanna discover on vacation. So wear your shoes out and about to determine if you'll need to add a grippy stick-on sole to them or take them to the cobbler to get a sole added, because you can make those changes to a good quality shoe. There's a whole community of people out there who would say that adding a sole or a half sole to a naked leather sole ruins the balance of the shoe and the aesthetic, but a good cobbler will know exactly what to do to keep the balance of the shoe. So I am pro adding a sole. In any case, even with older, well-worn shoes, I always bring band-aids, moleskin, and those little inserts for the back of the shoe with me in my purse, because you never know, and sometimes what was comfortable for a 10-minute walk starts to rub after 3 hours. I do recommend investing in good shoes for travel if you plan to travel a lot or for long periods of time. If you need a few brands, I'll leave a link to an old blog post on comfort shoe brands that are actually incredibly stylish. Some people think that travel shoes or capsule shoes need to be black, brown, or nude. But the fun thing about shoes is an unexpected pop of color can actually make a pretty neutral travel outfit so much more fun and interesting. So don't forget to explore how to use color as a neutral in your travel capsule wardrobes. I always say things like red in a handbag or a shoe is actually a neutral and can be way more versatile than you think compared to wearing like a red top, for example, which is not a neutral. And please take care of your shoes too. Wipe off salt and slush from winter boots, don't wear suede in the rain, and make sure you don't wait until your laces are threadbare before replacing them. If you're packing fancy shoes, there are a lot of travel-sized polish kits that you may consider packing, and you might want to bring extra laces too, just in case. Lastly, always pack your shoes in a bag or a packing cube to protect them and to protect the rest of your clothes. I have a reel all about how to pack your shoes in your suitcase for maximum efficiency, cleanliness, and to keep your shoes from losing their shape. I hope this long video about packing shoes for travel gave you lots to think about and some useful, actionable tips to choosing the proper footwear for your next adventure. Thanks for tuning in, and see you in the next video. Happy travels. Thanks for watching this video until the end. For more content like this, make sure you subscribe to the Capsule Suitcase and turn on notifications so you get all the fresh content as soon as it comes out. Thanks for supporting this channel. Happy travels.